Hey folks, well, these Buds, boy, they're streaky. They've lost 4 straight. Will they bounce back? Is the sky falling? Well, you know what? We're going to break it all down for you right here on the OZone.
You're in the offensive zone, your place for Leafs hockey.
Hey folks, welcome to the OZone. That's Coach. We love you, KD. I'm the Diva. We're here to talk all things Leafs. I'm coming you from the OZHQ there in freezing cold Toronto. Coach, where are you at?
Devo, I'm in the belly of the beast tonight in Boston. It is cold. It makes me long for warm and wet London.
Yeah, I bet. I bet it does. It is frigid here in Toronto today too, so it must be an Eastern thing. Anyways, folks, look, hit subscribe, ring the bell. You'll never miss any content. There's a lot of you watching that haven't done that. Also, share, like the video. It helps spread the word, broadens the audience, and leave a comment. Helps us get better. We bring it up. We deal with on the pod all the time. Also, we got some giveaways coming up. We got a Leafs tickets to give away in a few weeks. You got to be a subscriber for those. So click subscribe. Very important. Okay, Coach, Leafs have lost 4 straight. And it doesn't get any easier. Leafs Nation loves a whipping boy. This year it's been Marner and Brody. Last year it was Hall. But there seems to be a little blood in the water for Keefe. This past week, the Leafs are definitely struggling. This Western road trip isn't going to be easy either. Does Keefe make it out alive? Coach, let's start there.
Well, good question. I'm glad to see Leaf Nation come around to my perspective. As you know, Devo, I called for Keefe to be fired after that disaster of a choke job against Montreal, losing to Dominic Ducharme. I'm pretty sure he's working as a bouncer down on St. Catherine Street now. I've been at it for a while, and so Leaf Nation's coming around. It's a tough situation. They've been so inconsistent. And you mentioned the stretch that they have coming up. Here's a little pick here. This was before the Edmonton game, which we blew another lead, multi-goal lead, and lost. Mm-hmm. But look, this is tough. Even Calgary's playing and Seattle are playing better. Yep. But then you got Vancouver and back-to-backs against Winnipeg. Surely it's worse than 50-50 that he comes out of this unscathed, right? Yeah. It just does not stack up very well for him, especially with the way the club's playing right now. Mm-hmm. But look, that's the schedule. They had an easier first half. The second half's going to be worse. Can't do anything about that. But what you can do something about is maybe stop saying puzzling stuff like this. Look at this. This thing came just out today. Keefe saying after 42 games, I still have questions about who I can rely upon.
Yeah.
What?
I know.
So, how is that possible? Look, either he's not communicating what he's looking for from these guys so that he can trust them. Maybe they don't understand the structure, the system. Maybe that's it. Or he's taking a shot at the roster, right? He's saying he doesn't trust guys because he doesn't have the right players. That's not where you want to be, taking a shot at a guy who's not your GM. I don't know. Real puzzling statement. Just not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, he's had a couple of puzzlers this past week. I mean, he had that. He put the lines in the blender there against the Avalanche. I was at that game, my daughter's first game. Blew a 3-goal lead in that one. But he had a puzzling statement the day after that one too, where he talked about having to mix the lines up because they were playing non-NHL players. These guys were too good for the NHL.
Yeah.
And none of them were named McDavid, ironically, you wonder what's going through his head, how he's trying to maybe get into his team's head. And that has not been a side of Keefe that we've ever seen. In fact, we've talked about it here on the pod that he is he tends to keep it pretty close to the vest, and he doesn't try to, use the press to rally his troops. So maybe this is just a clumsy version of him trying to do something. I don't know, but it seems a little desperate at this point. Listen, if you replace Keefe, if you're the GM, you fire him. Who's your guy? Like, what's the move?
Yeah. So, look, at the very least, I would do what Ottawa did. I would hire, a consultant or something like that. Remember what they did with Jacques Martin? They brought him in to help out with DJ Smith. Now, DJ Smith, maybe not as experienced as Keefe, but only by a couple seasons. So Ottawa did that. And like we said right away, remember on this pod, we said, well, the writing's on the wall for DJ Smith. Well, I think it's already kind of there for Sheldon Keefe. So that I would do that at the very least. But you asked about which coaches are out there. What's the field look like? Well, Guy Boucher is right on the bench. He's got head coaching experience. He's at least gone to a Stanley Cup final. Bruce Boudreau is out there. Craig Berube's won a cup. Joel Quenneville's won a cup. So, like, there are some good guys there. The one that nobody's really talking about, and I wonder if this might be a possibility with the Leafs being in Alberta, does Treliving make his way to Viking, Alberta, and talk to his old friend Sutter, Brian Sutter? Hey, I'll tell you what. We're, Leaf Nation is about Keefe's too soft. We need a guy to hold guys accountable. Nobody holds guys accountable like Sutter. So that might be interesting too.
Yeah, of all the names there, that would be pretty significant. But I guess there's an angle there, as you say, with the Calgary Connect. Anyways, let's turn our attention to the Leafs on the ice. Giving up these leads, it's got to be said. I'm not trying to say I told you so, but I did mention in the summer, and I've repeated it several times on this pod, that I had great concerns at how the penalty kill was going to perform, given the spots that we gave up in the off season, and the guys we brought in didn't really look like the types of guys you could throw out there. The penalty kill has been atrocious of late, absolutely horrendous. But the biggest weakness of the team, obviously, is goaltending. Injuries are a factor there. But the defense corps, I mean, this is beyond a dead horse at this time. On paper, this really is not a very good defense corps. It doesn't matter if you like guys. Gio's playing on league minimum. I love that guy. Blah, blah, blah. It's not good. It's not good on paper, and it's not good on the ice either. And those aren't exactly, I'll call them coaching issues. And here's another thing. Well, let's just leave it at that. How can this team stop the bleeding, Coach? Like, what can they do now in the immediate term?
So, Devo, you're not saying I told you so, because you say it all the time, every podcast. Yeah. It would only be I told you so if you were reminding us you said it way back when. You say it all the time. The other part of it is, you're right. Guys we brought in from a penalty killing perspective aren't quite as good, and I'll get into that in a second. I disagree with the notion that it's not a coaching issue. From looking at it this way, special teams is certainly relying on coaching, and the penalty kill is not very good. Mm-hmm. Certainly the personnel is different. Matchups are a coaching issue. Not leading the league in too many men on the ice penalties, that's coaching. Mm-hmm. And it's systems and structure is coaching, especially playing with the lead. So I do think coaching comes into it, but that's not really what you're getting at. You're getting at players. So yes, you're right. A healthy Joseph Woll would be a huge improvement. Now, it does create some questions. What do you do with, is it Samsonov or Jones? But a healthy Joseph Woll, he had won that job. And look, I am trying to say I told you so. When Wall went down and Jones was the guy and Samsonov was struggling, I said, look, you can't expect this guy, Jones, to be a savior. He was an 880 guy last year.
Yeah.
He's come back to earth a little bit, as we should have expected.
Yeah.
He's been great, but he has been terrific. Played 7 in a row, and during that 4-game win streak out west, he's been good. But you can't expect him to be fantastic. So goaltending, yes. But look, we shouldn't be surprised that the team is struggling defensively. We talked about it to start the year. You're talking about the D. The D's been not good, but not bad. They've been okay, I think, in my opinion. You mentioned Brody. So, yes, it's very obvious that Brody hasn't been as steady as in previous years. He also is plus 11. He leads the defensive core in plus minus by a pretty wide margin.
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem is more that Benoit and McCabe as a pair, McCabe on his wrong side, they can't really play against other teams' top lines, right?
Yep.
So Riley and Brody have to. And that's not really how that pair should be deployed, especially with Brody declining. You want Riley out there where he can freewheel. So if they're playing as a shutdown pair, he can't do that as much. He's having a good year, but man, it would be great to have a real shutdown pair. And you've talked a lot about having a big defenseman in here that can be in that role. But look, they're pretty much it's the same decor as last year, with the one exception being Benoit, maybe Benoit for Shen. The same players,
Hall,
and they were a very solid defensive team last year. So either
you're missing Hall, you're missing Hall out of that.
Yeah, well, Hall's been a healthy scratch, I think, 8 times in Detroit. So, so either everybody that's remaining all got worse at the same time, or maybe something else is afoot. I think it is. The forward group is considerably worse defensively versus last year. Bringing in Domi and Bertuzzi, for goodness sake, Reeves. None have been known for being good defensively, and they're living up to that reputation.
Yes.
And the fourth line hasn't been great either. Camp's -7, Gregor's -8, even McMahon's -4. The advanced stats are just as bad. They're outplayed most every night. So as a team, they're not as good defensively. D-core's not as good. Forwards for sure aren't good, and the goaltending's been a problem. We're getting, what we're seeing is a result of all that.
Yeah, it's funny we've brought up Camp so little this year. We brought him up a few pods ago, talking about how he became the face of accountability for the Toronto Maple Leafs, as he was the guy meant to sit. Now, in Keefe's defense, I think he should. He has been a far cry from the player he was and has been the last few years. And that penalty kill role is a lot to do about him. But I will say this, the play of late from Gregor and the play of late certainly from your boy Pontus, I actually think has been pretty good. I think McMahon has been a nice surprise there as well. But I don't think any of them have proved themselves to the point where Keefe trusts them, obviously, hence the strange comment he had the other day.
Yeah. Well, look, so we talked, remember, to start the year. We knew Domi wouldn't be great defensively, Bertuzzi, so what the roster changed in that it was built to outscore these problems. Going to be a little worse defensively, but we should score more. But we're not. So those guys haven't produced all that much. Domi actually has a bunch of assists, but he's got 4 goals. Camp has more goals. So the stars have to be not just good, but great.
Yeah, and what's also, I guess, a bit puzzling with this team is they brought in sort of more offensive weaponry, and yet overall their possession numbers have dropped.
Yeah,
they're not a possession team anymore out there. They're chasing, and this is not a good team to be. Like, the Leafs are not a chasing team. They need the puck, and if anyone wants some proof on that, and I don't have the stat in front of me, one of you subscribers throw it in the comments. How have the Leafs done in the second period in the last month? Because possession teams and the long change, usually that's the mark of a possession team, is that they kill their opponents in the second period when their opponents can't get to the bench and make changes. Well, the Leafs are getting killed in the second period, so they're getting outpossessed, frankly, and that's a death knell for this team. The way it's constructed, because that back end can't take the puck back.
See this look here. This is I'm not sure what the stats are, so I'm not going to say anything because the subscribers would kill us if we're wrong. But makes sense to me. You're right. Leafs have usually had the puck all the time. One thing that hasn't changed, even though they had the puck in previous years a lot, never drew a whole lot of penalties.
Mm-hmm.
That's true as well this year.
Yeah.
With one exception, it's worse this year because Bunting led the league. Right. And there isn't that Bunting guy who's drawing penalties this year.
That's right.
So power play's been okay. It's been better than the penalty kill for sure, right? Just not as many opportunities.
But it should be top. Like it should be top 2 or 3. I mean, for God's sakes, look at that.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot invested there. Look, if we're going to talk about protecting leads, it's simple to me. The best way to protect a league is have a good goalie. Leafs have had some goalie troubles this year and injuries. The second best way is a competent defensive core. And let's be honest, to me, the Leafs have neither. The D unit it isn't good. Maybe it's a good unit if you're possessing the puck. They're fleet of foot. They certainly Riley can jump up in the rush, but if you've got to defend against the cycle against, if you've got to pin a man against the boards, if you got to clear the net front, this is not the group for you. I think 78 has been adequate at best this year, notwithstanding his plus minus numbers, particularly compared to last year. But to your point, maybe they're asking them to do too much. Maybe he's got to play against too many of the best lines. And when you're partnered with Riley, maybe that's not the best deal. Net front is a huge problem. As for the forwards, I think your boy, I said it before, I think Pontus.
Yeah,
I think he's been great this last month. Gregor McMahon, I think they've been okay too. I think maybe we're going to start to see them elevated in the lineup even more so. They grind at least. Maybe you can deal Domi and Burt to a team that can spin them out for more draft picks, but you got to give something out for that. I don't know what you do. I can tell you what I want though. I want Corey Perry. I want Berube. I want Gudas on the back end, and I want Wall back. I think that would solve a lot of problems for this team. All right, folks. There you have it. Buckle up. It is going to be a fun couple of weeks. This Western road trip, if they survive it, we'll see. But we're going to have you back. We're going to have you back right here on the OZone.